Diagram, we see a pretty familiar scenario with two triangles that share a side, and a very simple scenario where we have given information as congruent. And so, in our given information, very common in these two column proofs to put it all into one statement, we see that segment JK is congruent to segment LM. So, we can mark that here and here. It's always good to mark your diagrams. Even if it's not a flow proof. That way you get a visual of what's going on. And we are also told that segment KL is congruent to segment MJ. So these two segments are congruent. And that's simply given. In our given information, we were told that these segments were congruent to each other. And then we see that in the second statement that segment JL is congruent to segment LJ. And I think this is something we already know based on all the other proofs we've done up to this point. We probably could have come up with that reason on our own, or that statement on our own, because we've been discussing the reflexive property. So the reflexive property allows us to say that something is congruent to itself. And so you might notice that these are the same segment. The order of the letters was reversed, which doesn't change that we're talking about the same segment JL. So the benefit of marking your diagram is now that we have our diagram marked, we see that we've marked all pairs of sides as congruent. And so what we know is that we have this theorem side, side, side that guarantees the triangles to be congruent to each other. Now you notice that's not the end of our proof. Our proof is, okay, so you've shown the two triangles are congruent, then why are these segments also congruent? And again, these angles also congruent, and that all ties back into what it means for the triangles to be congruent to each other. Angle JLM would be angle L in our first triangle. Angle LJK is angle J in our second triangle, and you might notice that our congruent statement says those two angles should be congruent to each other. And so when we know that two triangles are congruent, all pairs of angles and all pairs of sides should be congruent. And that's what the 5 letters CPC TC tells us.